Air Museum. Let's check it out.
We're here in Liberal, Kansas at the Mid-America Air Museum. You can see some planes out there. This is a harvest host and we're gonna check it out.
So if you're a liberal or a conservative, come on by.
But what's funny about being in Liberal, Kansas? What river did we cross?
We crossed the Republican River.
This is not a political video.
Oh, this is so cool.
So Shar and I had a plane. That was a Piper.
Cherokee.
It was a Cherokee, and we love it. It's about, it's a lot smaller than this baby.
Ours was? No, it was
Yeah,
a four-seater.
no. It was a four-seater, but this was, the wings were bigger. We had Hershey bar wings, dinky little thing, great engine, could fly 900 miles. This Piper Comanche with retractable gear was converted to load up on fuel. It barely made it into the air in Casablanca, Morocco, and it flew all the way past El Paso and on to Los Angeles. 3 world records set in this small aircraft. Whoever built this plane, I like the cut of their jib because they use the ship's wheel as the steering wheel for the airplane. This is a Royal Scout used in World War I. These things are so small, it's hard to believe that aviation got its start and that pilots fought in these airplanes so long ago.
I know my Phil, and he can hear a piston engine from miles away. This is the B-25 Mitchell that was famous for being used in Doolittle's raid in 1942 against the Japanese.
Can't even imagine what it was like because they had to fly to drop their bombs over Tokyo, but they couldn't come back to the carrier. There was 25 of them that launched. They had to go into China where they ditched. It's got about the same room in there as a Cessna 172. The only thing I ever wanted to do when I was a kid was fly, fly, fly. So I joined the Navy, got selected to flight school, and then I got medically disqualified 2 weeks before flight school, and the instructor called me up and says, "Hey man, we got your books on your desk, are you coming?" And man, I was heartbroken because I got medically disqualified for elevated blood sugar. I'm a type diabetic. So I drove ships for a living.
when Phil and I lived in California, I was working to get my pilot's license. He already had his. Long story short, I had one thing left to do, which is the nighttime cross country. And Phil got new orders with the Navy to move to New Jersey. Basically, we lived in New York. And we thought we had about a month before we'd have to sell the plane, or before we would sell the plane and I could get my pilot's license. Well, it sold quick in about a week or two. And
2 days we had an offer.
And long story short, I never got to finish my FAA exam, but I got to fly and I soloed a bunch of times.
And she was a better pilot than I did. I would bounce that plane because it was a Cherokee 140, so I had a low wing, but I learned in a Cessna. And anybody who's a Cessna pilot or a high wing aircraft pilot knows that when you transition to low wing, it's a whole different sight picture. And so I would just like drive that thing into the dirt.
I would kiss the ground.
She would chirp, chirp, chirp the tires. Although I would say that her approach was a little unorthodox. Take a look. We'll show you a little video of her landing. This is an F-80 Shooting Star. It was the first jet model I ever built as a kid. And I remember you can just disconnect the whole tail section, pull it off, and swap out this engine. And you could do the same thing with a model. But a super simple airplane, that was a pretty awesome aircraft for us.
This is the Corsair, which is known for its gull wing, which is made after the seagull. And it was made that way because the landing gear could be shorter to make for easier landings. And it was mainly used in World War II, but became more famous in the 80s with the TV show Baa Black Sheep.
So when I was a kid in high school, I loved that show. She doesn't really remember it. She doesn't remember it. But Pappy Boyington was a real guy. And he flew these babies, and I met him at Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University in Prescott, Arizona when he came to talk. And I was a little deflated because at the end of his talk, he whipped out a credit card reader and says, "Okay, I'll take your, I'll give you signatures for $10 or something." Still, this was a very difficult but impressive aircraft all at the same time. The Marines adopted it fast in the Pacific. And then the Navy finally approved it for carrier use, so you saw it there. What an amazing airplane that thing ended up being.
I did not expect to see this here. It's an actual beam from 9/11.
9/11 was a horrible day for a lot of Americans, and it was for me. I was the captain of a minesweeper, and one of my chiefs walked in to say that something had happened to the World Trade Center, and then we watched it live as another aircraft went into the second tower, and I ended up spending 4 days on my ship waiting for further orders. But that was a very dramatic day, and I hope that a lot of Americans don't
ever
forget this. Well, I'm not forgetting it, and I don't think anyone ever should. Is this the airplane that's called the Dr. Killer?
Which one?
The Beach Bonanza.
Is it?
I don't know if you've ever heard of a Dr. Killer. It's always a Beach Bonanza. And it's because doctors could afford them, but then they wouldn't take the time to really learn how to fly them. read it. It's called The Dr. Killer. That's so terrible. Cessna 140. I'm going to call that a beach stagger wing.
You will never, ever, ever catch me flying in something like this.
Too little.
Even for me.
What's that?
Engine?
Engine. Radial engine.
Outside time.
These airplanes, the S2 was long gone before I came in. They were replaced by the S3 Viking. They are an anti-submarine airplane. But look at this one. This is an F-14 Tomcat. Fun fact, my first ride in a naval aircraft or Navy aircraft was this one. I flew with Lieutenant Commander Snake Turner on a familiarization flight in the San Diego area for about an hour and a half, and he zorched me all over San Clemente Island and off the coast. I went Mach 1. It's the best airplane ride I ever took because it was crazy. We both miss flying, but we've got more important things to do. And when anytime something fires up and it's going to take off, we always kind of stop to look. Well, that's it.
Yeah, if you are not a history buff or an airplane buff, you still have to come here. It's super interesting.
Take your money, go find an air museum or any other museum for that matter, and throw a few dollars at them to keep these history making or these living histories or static histories alive.
Yeah, the combined cost to get in here was $7, so it's totally worth it.
If you like this video, make sure you give us a thumbs up.
And be sure to like and subscribe and share with your family and friends.
See you later. Have a good day.
Bye. John Baker? Isn't he the cop from Chips? Different John Baker.
Different John Baker.